I'm excited to talk to you guys today. It's going to be a good lesson. Hopefully you guys take something from it, and I hope that you guys are taking notes as well. So jumping right into this, how many of you guys like tongue twisters? Yes?
Tongue twisters?
Tongue twisters, yes.
That was a tongue twister for me, yeah.
Well, I always have fun with tongue twisters, and I found a few that I thought were really funny, so let me just say a couple of them. A canner can anything that he can, but a canner can't can a can he? That's a good one, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to repeat it, so don't ask you to. Here's another one. If you notice this notice, you will notice that this notice is not worth noticing. So that's a good one. That was probably one of my favorite ones. But so with that, we all like tongue twisters, and it can be fun to say it. It can be fun to try to say it as fast as you can, or just have fun doing it with friends. But in life, there are times where your mouth does get in a tongue twister, and sometimes you put your foot in your mouth. You may speak negatively about a situation, and moments like that can all be things that are not so fun to experience and not so fun to go through. And I've definitely been there. And so today I want to speak to you on something that I've been dealing with for probably the last year. But it really hit me in February this year when I was in Dallas for the C3 conference at Fellowship Church. And one of the nights we were there with our church staff, and we went to the Cheesecake Factory. And just a normal night, like I thought, but God spoke to me through the menu, and on the menu it had a picture of a cheesecake, and it said, "Change your state of mouth." And I really thought about that phrase, and since then it hasn't left my mind. And so that's what I like to title. We all know the phrase, change your state of mind, but how do we do that with our mouths, or how do we do that with our words? And hopefully today you can walk away with some ways and some tips and ideas that can help you learn how to do that. So point number one, you repeat what you eat. You repeat what you eat. This phrase can be similar to you are what you eat, and I know we've all heard that phrase. And if we are what we eat, I think I would consider myself a takeout queen because I eat out a lot, and I think a lot of us, especially as interns, can identify with that. We eat out probably more than we should. But with this, I really want us to evaluate ourselves both in a spiritual way and a non-spiritual way. What are you eating? When it comes to what you're learning, the information that you're gathering, things that you're watching, or music that you're listening to, just things you're consuming in your life in general. Are you repeating what you're consuming? Because if you're consuming negative things, you're going to repeat those negative things. If you are hearing and believing lies, then you're going to repeat those lies that you believe, whether it's from a rumor, from friends around you, or whether it's from lies from the enemy. You will repeat what you hear if you believe those things. And when it comes to movies, it may seem like such a simple thing, and it may not, you may not realize it, but movies and things that you watch, if you're not careful and you're not guarding yourselves, you can repeat those things in your life. It can create habits that are not good. So whether you think it or not, what you consume in your personal lives will repeat themselves in public. And in prepping for this lesson, I learned a lot about the mouth and tongue, and just looking at facts and researching and trying to figure out more about those things. And one of the more fascinating facts that I found was from an acupuncturist, and her name was Mary Saunders. And she said in an interview that usually the tongue gives the clearest indication of the nature of disharmony in the body, and that can lead to disease. And so think about that. Your tongue can give the clearest indication to the health in your body. When writing this lesson, I really took a moment to think about that, and it just blew my mind. That something as little as the tongue can state the nature of your body, and that just is incredible to know. But with that, if the tongue can give that indication, what does God think about the speech that's coming from your tongue? What does he think about the way you're speaking to people, maybe in the church, maybe in your home life, wherever you are? What does God see when he sees or hears the words that are coming out of your mouth? Yeah. Is it pleasing to him? Is it disappointing him? Or are you using your words to inspire or to do the opposite and to bring people down, to tear people down? How are you using your words? Which brings me into my second point, how you change your state of mouth is number 2, you use your unique print. And so another fact about your mouth, which you might be saying once I say the fact, well, duh, that's obvious, that your mouth is the first step in the digestive process. Obviously, that's clear. Your food goes in your mouth. That's the first place it starts. But the reason this is because chewing your food allows different chemicals and liquid lubricants that are released in the mouth to break down your food. And so what does that have to do with anything that I'm talking about? Well, this made me think. If the mouth is the first step in the digestive process of our bodies, shouldn't we be more aware of the words that we're giving people to digest? Shouldn't we be more aware of the words that we're giving ourselves to digest? I know for probably girls more, it's really hard if you're insecure in yourself, or maybe even for guys, when you're constantly tearing yourselves down, you're beating yourselves up because your heart is on you. You know that you could do better at something. You know that you could put more effort, and we constantly beat ourselves up and say negative things about ourselves. And that's not okay, just a little side note, because God created you the way that you are, so when you are using negative words on yourself, you're really dissing God in a way. You're telling Him that you're not happy with how He created you. So it's really, you have to be careful. You got to guard your tongue with those things because it's not safe to talk that way. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." That verse is amazing because we all need to make sure that what we're speaking from our mouths is building people up. We should not be tearing people down. Especially as a Christ follower, we're called to be the light of the world, and so we really need to be that light. We need to be the mouth of Jesus. We need to be His mouthpiece and speak to people the way we need to speak to them. We need to not tear ourselves down, and also we need to pay attention that our talk and our speech fits the occasion at that moment, just like the verse says. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up or as fits the occasion. Sometimes you may think you need to speak something, but actually you don't need to speak in that moment. Rather, you need to be silent and just not say anything. And that's the correct thing to do in that moment. You don't always have to voice your opinions. We don't always have to be correct and trump over someone else and say what we think is right, because that's not how God created it. There's a time and place for everything. Which brings me to Ecclesiastes 3:7. There's a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Another verse, Matthew 12:36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. So with that, with those verses, God says it black and white. Don't speak carelessly, and we have to put thought into what we want to say. We can't just be speaking whenever we want to speak, the first thing that comes to our mind. We need to really guard our tongues and guard our hearts when we're speaking. Another verse, Proverbs 12:18. Some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. So with this lesson, I really want to challenge you guys as you go home today and you think about, maybe reflect about this lesson. When talking to someone, maybe a stranger or friends or family, whoever it may be, are your words bringing healing? Are your words that you're speaking easy to digest? Or are you giving things to people that are really complicated for them to digest, that are really hurting them and tearing them down? And the same goes for us individually. Are you tearing yourself down, or are you building yourself up through God? And so with this, under the point of you have to use your unique fingerprint when changing your state of mouth, the reason why I wrote that was because I found a fact that says humans have unique tongue prints, just like we all have unique fingerprints. So if we all have a unique tongue print, then that just shows that God created us so individually to the point of our tongues. And so with that, we need to find our gifts and find how we're able to use our words in a more unique way. Thank you, guys.